Das ist ethanklein, das was olilondon, das was
So, when you say the trans movement, it seems to me that you are speaking generally about trans people.
Yes,
So when
huh?
you say trans movement, I don't know exactly what you mean
Was
because it
he
seems that most trans people, or that I've seen, maybe with the exception of Caitlyn Jenner,
was his of
uh,
the realms?
seems to disagree with this, seems to identify as being parts of the trans movement. So, what is the difference between what is the trans movement? Who is a member of that? What is this
So what?
organization?
Okay, so what I'm talking about here is the trans movement in the trans activist movement. So the people pushing these ideologies. So we see every single day. Just yesterday, the Texas state capitol was invaded. The trans protesters went there. We see women being attacked at women's rights rallies, physically attacked, and we're seeing this trans activist movement pushing for gender affirming care on kids, which is basically putting 11, 12-year-old kids on very harmful hormones. So that's what I'm talking about. When I talk, I'm not generalizing every single trans person. I'm talking about the current trans movement, which has been hijacked by trans activists. And I really think that trans people that have been living as a trans person their whole life, they need to speak out against this, because the problem is that the LGBT community is being hijacked by these
Well,
radical
let me
people.
ask.
And
Sorry, I don't want to
Hijack,
cut you off, but I just
huh?
want to address things you said already, right? So you
What's
say
he actually
that
saying?
the people who are demonstrating at the Texas
Bro, Ethan is so good at this shit.
part of this trans movement, who wants to,
He don't need my help at all.
sexualize kids and this whole list
My
of
name?
things. Um, they were there to protest a bill, SB 14, that would ban gender-related
Okay.
treatment for minors. So these guys are, I
Supporting
guess, see that
coworker, I
as an
mean,
affront as
testifier.
being transphobic. But you disagree because what is minor? Anyone 17 and under? Do you believe that ever there would be a 17-year-old that needed gender-affirming care?
so minors basically classified anyone under 18. And what these people were protesting against was the fact that Texas is trying to pass a law to ban hormones and puberty blockers and gender reassignment surgery being administered to children, basically. So, I think these people, firstly, that was an unlawful protest. You can't just go into a state capitol and do that. And if they want to have a
Are you in favor of only lawful protests?
For the record, this is Ethan's greatest enemy yet, because every anti-trans activist is like has encyclopedic knowledge of every fucking minor infraction that trans people have ever committed. So this is the highest level of debate that he's ever engaged with. I'm gonna be honest. It's like debating a flat earther. It's very difficult to debate flat earthers, no matter how much you know the science, because they can constantly trap you in their junk science, and they know more than you
It's
in the junk
true.
science. So transphobia is kind of like that
Probably
too.
no, or I think you did at
If
one
not,
point. Is that
we're on the topic.
gender-affirming care
You
on
lose
people,
your
on
name.
children, is exceedingly rare. It's actually so rare that if to express like irreversible gender changes on children is something like I've got the number here, 0.000493% of U.S. children aged 6 through 17 go through irreversible gender changes. So I guess I'm just curious because in the cases where they do undergo it, it's usually to save their life, right? Because they might be suicidal or yeah, right. And they go through like panels, they go through multiple rounds of talking to psychiatrists and
This is
doctors.
saying
So I guess I'm just
able to
curious, why is
do
it you think that this is threatening kids instead of
hormonal
actually helping kids who are at high risk of hurting themselves?
So, Ethan, about 10 years ago, when gender affirming care was performed on whether that was minors or adults, there was a lot of checks and balances. Now it has become so easy. So they don't have the psychiatrist appointments anymore. They don't have, having to wait several years to transition. Now it's a fast track process. And that's the real issue, because many of these teens, and we're seeing thousands of teens being transitioned and put on hormones, the number's really gone up in the last few years. Many of these teens are struggling with other issues. There's a high case, around 1 in 6 of these children have autism.
Really?
They're being misdiagnosed. There's also kids with.
The way you look and the way you sound plays a serious role in how you're perceived in debates. And olilondon looks like shit. So, like, it's very hard for people to take him seriously. You know what I mean? It's just like, he just looks so fucking insane, because he is. He's unhinged. He's an unhinged psychopath.
The system is being exploited.
Like, he was like, he was trying to be like transracial or some shit. Remember? Like,
there's so many examples.
It's not gonna work.
People. But the thing is now is, previously,
It's probably a big idea what the looks
to
is.
think every day that I'm trapped in the wrong body. It is horrific to go through that. But the problem is, years ago they would have 2 to 3 years they would have to undergo of psychiatrist appointments, doctors.
Ethan should go, wait, you transitioned years ago. What does that say then?
So easy, and there are thousands of kids being fast-tracked and put on hormones, prescriptions, and some kids can now go to states like Colorado or Washington State, which have become sanctuary states, and they don't
I want to actually
consent.
address what you said about you had said something about Jamie Reed's allegations, right? But that was debunked, right? Because the parents and the children there who actually were attending that facility actually told a completely different story. Have you read their account of that?
Yeah, so I saw recently that they did an internal investigation. They said it wasn't true, but no, I don't believe
that seems significant.
Yeah, but I don't believe that at all, because
you don't believe the internal investigation.
No, because there were multiple parents. When the Daily Caller originally did the interview of Jamie Reed, there were multiple parents that said basically their kids weren't looked after once they left the clinic. There were no checks and balances, and there were parents confirming that. So, no, I believe the investigation has a lot of bias because it's done by the clinic and they're profiting.
So the internal investigation said there was no wrongdoings. The patient said there was no wrongdoings. So I guess I'm just curious. The people who are claiming that there was something wrong there, is like the Daily Caller, Tucker Carlson. Are you saying that they don't have a bias?
Well, I mean, a lot of people have a bias and stuff, but we have to look at these gender clinics. There's a whole Project Veritas exposed multiple clinics the other day talking about medically transitioning 8 to 11-year-olds. So we have to acknowledge that this is going on in a lot of clinics, and a lot of these clinics are trying to cover their backs by trying to paint a rosy picture that is perfect,
Did you say
fine.
Project Veritas?
Yes, they did an undercover investigation.
That's the guy who got ousted for being like a sex criminal and like scam artist, James O'Keefe. That's his organization, right?
He's not part of that organization now. So the organization that left, Project Veritas, the original organization, did this
They don't have
investigation.
a lot of credibility, Veritas. It seems like every investigation they do is just chock full holes of untruths and just blatant lies. I don't think it's a very credible institution for pulling data from.
Well, there's multiple organizations like Project Veritas that do
Which other ones?
So Gays Against Groomers, I'm ambassador to them. They are
Gays
also
Against
exposing
Groomers.
this happening in clinics.
Gays Against Groomers. So who's?
Have you heard of that?
I haven't, but who's the groomer then?
So basically, Gays Against Groomers is an organisation of hundreds of LGBT people. It includes trans people as well. Basically, this organisation is calling out the harms. They're doing investigations of gender.
That's also a lie. Gays Against Groomers is like literally started by a straight man.
Where's the grooming come in though? That's the part that I find like really inflammatory. Because grooming implies that trans people or trans activists, and it's what you said here in the tweet, that they're pedophiles, that they're sexualizing kids. So where's that evidence come from? Because it's one thing to say we're against, gender affirming care for minors, but it's a whole different thing to say, they're grooming.
Well, that word is basically used because we're seeing many drag shows, like adult drag shows, where kids are attending, and it's very sexually explicit. So that is a form of grooming. We also see these kids' books in public libraries and in schools where they're teaching kids about drag and being trans. That's not a subject a kid should hear, so that is a form of grooming because it's indoctrinating kids.
I know that there was that one drag show with kids that was kind of a hot button issue. What other examples can you think of drag shows with kids involved? Where they're being groomed?
So in the last year, there's an investigative journalist, Taylor Hanson. He's exposed at least 20 drag shows in Texas that are called all ages drag shows. They're called all ages drag shows, and they're basically doing sex acts on stage. They have breasts. They're doing very inappropriate things. So no, it's just.
So hold on, sorry, Ollie, you're making so many claims, and I just want to get to each one. You mentioned the organization Gays Against Groomers, which was founded by Jamie Mitchell. Is that right? Jamie Mitchell and the partner are ultra MAGA Trump followers, and there's nothing wrong with being a Trump supporter, but they're also anti-transgender. They spread anti-transgender propaganda with QAnon conspiracy theories, and interestingly, the founders are straight. So how is it that they can make a gays against a grooming organization when they themselves are not even gay? That seems disingenuous.
Well, firstly, that's a Wikipedia page. Wikipedia has a lot of bias with the woke people that write.
Jamie Mitchell is gay.
She's gay. She's a lesbian. All of the people, you have to be LGBT to be a member of Gays Against Groomers. So there's
how do they verify the credentials?
No, I mean, if someone says they're gay or bi, you accept that. You don't say, oh, can you prove that you're gay? How can you prove that? So, Jamie Mitchell is a lesbian. All of the members are lesbians, trans. It's not anti-transgender at all. They support people being trans as an adult, but what they're trying to do is calling out the harm that we're seeing caused to children, and that's the real issue here. It's about protecting kids.
Yeah, tell them
go back to your claim about grooming. So you brought up the drag show for kids. Is there any other examples, or are we just talking about drag shows? Because I have to assume that the drag shows, even if it's as widespread as Project Veritas claims, which heaven knows how credible they are, there's got to be other examples to make such bold claims as that there's a whole movement trying to sexualize kids.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at the music industry, you have really shocking performances like Sam Smith, for instance, who is pushing a specific agenda. He has concerts which are allowing all ages. And, if you want to be a musician, do whatever you want, but don't be doing sexually graphic things. He's doing imitating blowjobs. He has, fetish gear on, and there's kids in the audience. So it's not just about drag queens, it's about protecting kids in general. So even if it's Cardi B, I don't think kids should be at Cardi B concert if she's twerking or doing like something very, very sexual. I think it's just about protecting kids.
I mean, but you turn on the TV, you see some worse than that, right, on YouTube and stuff. But to say they're grooming them seems pretty disingenuous and actually really homophobic and transphobic to put this label that they're groomers, because you understand the gravity of such a claim, right?
Well, it's a very loaded word, I get that, but it's not an attack on the LGBT community at all. It's about basically calling out specific cases. It's not an attack on trans people, calling out specific cases where children are being exposed to something that's highly inappropriate and trying to raise awareness of that. So it's not a label that's attached to gay people, lesbians, trans people. It's literally about calling out.
I think more people should utilize the Mrs. Doubtfire argument, as I like to call it.
Sauce.
Do you think Mrs. Doubtfire was grooming an entire generation of children to be trans?
They were selling. It was like a kid's T-shirt with a trans person on it, and then they had like kids' toys with trans people on it, and it was kind of gross and groomy. Have you seen anything like that before?
I've seen T-shirts that the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota wore, protect trans kids with a knife on it. Things like that. I've seen T-shirts that says protect trans rights with AK-47s on it and stuff. And I don't think that's helpful messaging for. And that's just trans activists, by the way. Even this is a small number of people, and that's who I'm calling out. That's who Gays Against Groomers are calling out. It's not the
Mrs. Doubtfire argument is not to own your interlocutor. It's to make your interlocutor look like a fucking psychotic woke scold from the right, of course, to onlookers.
You are actually selling kids lunchboxes with a picture of you depicted as a trans woman, and you're selling.
No, that's not a trans woman. That's not a trans woman. That's just a K-pop picture of me.
Okay, because this is you. I had a feeling you would say that, because here it is, you wearing that design. It's pretty obvious to tell that this is depicting you. This is from just like a month ago, and this is when you were trans. Yeah. So do you think it's appropriate to sell this to kids?
Well, it's a lunchbox with a picture of a K-pop cartoon.
Well, it's you as a trans. It's you as a trans woman.
It's me as a K-pop star. It's nothing to do with being trans or not. That's just a cartoon of me as a K-pop star. So it's not. That's not inappropriate.
Right, but at the time, you were a trans woman.
Correct. At the time, I was a trans woman, but there's nothing inappropriate.
So it's you as a trans woman.
Oh, he's about to be like, yeah, I was a groomer.
It depicts me as a trans woman. It depicts me.
He's about to be like, yeah, I was a groomer back then. I'm not anymore.
You're willing to make that separation when you're making such general claims about the groomers and stuff, because to me, by your own definition, this is pretty groomy. And even if you go, and this is all, hold on one sec. Even if you go on your website right now, you're selling the same graphic, olilondon, Ollie Merch Squad, as you depicted as a trans woman. And if you look at the available sizes, it's just kids, 3 to 4. Do you think it's appropriate for a 3 to 4-year-old to buy this shirt?
Yeah, of course. Any K-pop fan, if they want to buy my merch, they're absolutely entitled to. There's nothing inappropriate with that merch at all.
That is a trans woman, Ollie. You're not understanding your own logic.
You're clutching at straws.
How am I? Okay, hold on. Let's follow this through. You were a trans woman when you made this. There's a picture of you wearing it. It's obviously you as a trans woman. Here's you as a trans woman, and here's you as a trans woman on the shirt, on a kid's shirt. How am I clutching at straws?
Well, you're clutching at straws. It's an innocent cartoon. It doesn't say anything about indoctrinating.
The tongue is somewhat sexual. How the tongue is out like that, it's a little disturbing.
Yeah.
Ethan, come on, I'm doing a K-pop pose. You're just clutching at straws.
No, why is the tongue out? I find that a little provocative.
Ethan, it's a cartoon. You're
doing
just
a
trying to
hiccup.
make
Well,
a
I
joke
don't
out
know
of it.
because you're well. No, I'm not trying to make a joke. I think this is a somewhat serious issue to resolve here because if you, no, I'm being serious, Ollie. Because let's at least be consistent. If we're going to accuse people of grooming kids, you know, and which you have made a short-lived but somewhat profitable career of doing, then I think we need to, we need to get on top of this. I just don't think it's appropriate to be selling
Well,
lunchboxes
if that,
with a trans
if
woman
that
on it.
lunchbox, if that lunchbox had something inappropriate or sexual, that would be wrong. But this is an innocent cartoon of me doing a K-pop pose. There's nothing wrong with that particular picture. If it was inappropriate or in a sexual way, that would be completely wrong. Of course, I would never sell that. But that's an innocent drawing of a cartoon, Ethan.
Why the
Do you think it's
tama
appropriate for a
to?
drag queen, for kids to buy, let's say a kid's at a drag queen show, that's grooming. And let's say they are selling lunchboxes to the kids with a picture of a drag queen on it, doing a cute pose or whatever, right? Not sexual, but they're in drag. Do you think it's appropriate for a kid to carry that lunchbox?
Well, I think it's appropriate if the kid's at a drag show that's inappropriate, because some drag shows are generally not inappropriate. A
Okay,
lot
so
of them are becoming
that's
sexualized.
interesting. So some drag shows are appropriate and some aren't.
Correct. It's about
Okay.
doing some. No, correct. It's about if you're going to do anything in front of kids, it should be PC. It should not have anything sexual. But sadly, a lot of these shows
So what's
are
the
doing sexual
line
things, so
there?
kids should not be there. If the merch is there and it's a show that's sexual, they shouldn't be there in the first
Right.
place.
Okay, this is interesting. So you're saying it is okay for kids to go to drag shows?
I'm not saying that at all. I don't think they should in
Hold on,
general. But I'm just saying,
if they're not sexual, and I would assume it's not because it's for kids, right? I mean, if they're doing sexual stuff, I would consider that. Obviously, everyone would consider that inappropriate. But I believe you've just said drag shows are safe for kids. In fact, you would even be okay. Well, hold on. You even said you'd be okay with them carrying a drag show lunchbox.
no, look, I just don't think kids should be anywhere that is putting ideas into their heads. No, if a show is innocent, that's obviously better than it being a sexual show. But I still don't think
You're
kids should
not
be exposed to gender ideology.
So, but what about this
if a kid-
lunchbox you're selling to kids?
that has nothing to do with any kind of ideology. It's a K-pop picture. So
Yeah, but you're in
it's-
drag in the picture. You're trans.
I'm not in drag.
Well, you're trans. Sorry, yeah, you're right. You're not in drag. I misspoke. You're trans. You're a woman. You're expressing yourself as a woman on the box.
It's just a cartoon, Ethan. I don't know why you keep going on about it's a
It's
cartoon.
just a cartoon. I mean, I feel like you're trying to downplay the significance of this, Ollie. I'm just afraid that some
Just
of
a
the people that you associate with might consider this
cartoon.
grooming by your own standard. I'm just looking out for you and your reputation.
It's just silly, Ethan. It's an innocent cartoon. If it was an inappropriate picture, that would be wrong.
Okay. What do you make of this picture? Are these kids in danger? Your thoughts?
I haven't seen the video of that particular show, and it depends what book they're reading. If the drag queen
It
is
appears
teaching
to
about
be
gender
depicting some fish, a couple of fish in the ocean. It seems like that's the rainbow fish. The rainbow fish. It seems to be the rainbow fish, Ollie.
Well, I think a lot of these books are pushing even subtle messages on gender ideology, trying to tell kids you should be trans and become LGBT, and kids should
Nice
make that decision on their
paper.
own. So if that book is teaching them about transitioning or becoming a drag queen, that's inappropriate.
It's
And
a
that's the
rainbow
issue.
fish.
Yes, but I haven't read the book. I can't see what the book is. So based on that one picture, does that book contain subtle messaging that's trying to tell kids to change their gender when they shouldn't be thinking about things like that? And in Florida, they've obviously banned books in the classroom that teach gender ideology. And there's a lot of books, kids books. There's a book called The Gay ABCs, and that pushes gender ideology for 2-year-olds. It's 2+, and I don't think that's appropriate for a kid that just should be reading kids books that are completely innocent. They shouldn't
But what do
even
you
be.
make of this? What do you make of this lunchbox, though?
Why did you keep going back to lunchbox?
Well, because it's got a picture of a trans woman on a kid's lunchbox.
Got a picture of a K-pop star on the lunchbox.
Who's the K-pop star? Who's the
Come on,
It's
Ethan,
you, right?
me. Would
Yeah, it's
you
you.
buy a lunchbox for your
And this
kid?
K-pop star is a trans woman, right?
I was trans at the time. The image doesn't necessarily depict any kind of gender.
So you're saying, did the photo of you? So it's
Not even a photo of me. It's literally a cartoon. Had an anime cartoon drawn of me.
right. Right.
Would you buy it?
Sorry?
Would you buy it for your kids?
I mean, I wouldn't just because I don't want to support you financially.
I've been listening, by the way. I'm just
but,
sitting up in bed.
But theoretically, I don't think I'd have a problem with. No, I wouldn't have a problem with my children.
There you go, Ethan. So
looking
this is what I was
at
gonna say. The one issue with by your logic style arguments is that you have to clarify, like you don't actually have an issue with Olilondon selling this. It's that he has an issue with it, but he himself is also a grifter.
Or even elementary school when they shouldn't be thinking about that. I think it's wrong to expose them to that. I think it's
Exposing them
Also, airtight argument from Ollie. That's not me as a trans woman. I'm a K-pop star. Okay, dude. Like,
No, but I think it's a really important point that you're not.
good one,
coming
Ollie.
to terms with.
I'm sure everyone is gonna think you're a K-pop star. That's a great one.
Why is it still on your website at least?
it's come on, Ethan. I don't know what to say. It's a cartoon with a K-pop star.
Yeah,
It's great. It's just like
no, that's infallible. No, that's the best defense, man. You got it.
trans kids on there. That would have a message. That would have a loaded gender ideology message. But it literally says Ollie Squad with a cartoon of me doing a peace sign. It's like super cute, super innocent. Just like most K-pop stars are like super cute. Nothing wrong with that.
I mean, aren't you making like the Higo face a little bit?
What do you think I should make it more masculine?
No, the Higo face is like some kind of hentai thing, isn't it?
I have no idea.
Bro said
I don't know
Higo
what-
face.
I-
Ahego, you fucking
really?
lack of pervert.
Well,
You don't know what? It's not Higo. It's
Hold
Ahego.
on.
So
He's not
bad.
perverted enough.
Higo face?
Uncultured.
No,
I don't believe you. Come on.
no. I watch anime like I watch Attack of the Titans. and
That's
stuff,
straight
but I'm
cap, my
not really-
brother. This is it, and you can see the resemblance, right? Here's the Higo face.
Go on.
It's like a hentai reference. But
Okay.
you see the resemblance, right?
Can you put them side by side?
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to.
I mean, that's quite a cute drawing.
Right, but that's like a woman like orgasming is what that is.
Well,
Or like
that's
lust,
not what
it's
I'm
like a lustful kind of sexual
Ethan,
gratification.
you're
face.
really clutching at straws.
Am I?
Literally, like, I've got my eyes open. I'm doing a peace sign. I'm
What
just trying to dissect it and say, there's honestly.
It's literally
It seems
the
that
same
as a
thing.
trans person, you shouldn't be exposing kids to that. It seems like you're shoving gender ideology down kids' throats by selling them a lunchbox with a trans woman on it. You don't see my point at all? You don't get it?
No, I don't. If I would see your point completely. If, for instance, it had a messaging on there,
See,
like
that's
some political, because I don't think it should be
obviously-
politics either. No political or gender ideology message. If that was on there, that'd be different. If it was a sexually suggested image, but this is literally an innocent cartoon. I've got my eyes open. I'm doing a peace sign. You cannot get innocent. What do I need to do even like to please people? Do I have to like close my eyes?
Well, I personally don't necessarily have a problem. What is your fascination with the eye wideness? I haven't said anything about that.
About what? Sorry.
You said, what do I have to close my eyes? I didn't know what that meant. You kept mentioning about like the eye wideness of how wide it is. I don't know why you keep bringing that up.
No, I'm just saying that look in the picture, my eyes. It's got very. It's not even me, by the way. It's a cartoon, but the eyes are very wide open, like
Of you.
glistening. I'm just saying, like, what's wrong with having my eyes open? Like, we're human beings. We have to have
I
our
don't
eyes
know why
open.
you're
Like,
talking about
close my eyes. Would you better close my eyes?
I don't know what that means, Ollie. Here's a reference to popular culture with the Higo face. It's like kind of an e-girl thing. You're probably aware of that.
Well, I'm not an e-girl, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, but you're on the internet, and it's from anime, which you seem to be. Okay, but let's
No,
go
I do know anime and stuff. I don't know anything to do with that pose. Literally, I've got my mouth open like this. Peace.
Ethan, move on from the Ahego, man. He's still talking about the Ahego
Go
face.
into it.
Thanks.
Yes, girl. So are you?
No,
So the
I'm
trans people
doing
identify as girls,
badly.
you're not trans. We're over that.
No, I'm like, well, basically, I got to a point where I was going to probably die from surgery I was doing, and I was really mentally struggling. I had a lot. a lot of mental health struggles based on a variety of issues, which I talk about in my book. From when I was being bullied very severely as a kid, I was always told I was like ugly, or I looked like a monster, or I was more feminine, or I had man boobs. So I just used to have all those things and left me with trauma. So it kind of messed up my head. And as an adult, I didn't deal with that in the way that I should have. I should have had therapy. I should have spoke to someone. Instead, it was almost like self-harming. So all this crazy surgery was me kind of lashing out at the bullies, and it was very, very destructive for me and for other people. So
do
I'm glad to go for that.
Do you think that people who are bullied are at a higher chance of becoming trans?
Yes, definitely. So I talk about this in my book. There's a lot of studies. There was a study in Finland by the top transgender clinic that was basically transitioning a lot of kids, and they said I think it's around 45% of the kids had experienced severe bullying, so that led to their gender dysphoria identity. But there's also the other side.
Your theory is that the bullying leads to the dysphoria, not the dysphoria leading to the bullying, which would be more logical.
No, I was just about to say as well, but there is also the flip side of that, where kids are being bullied because of their identity, because maybe a boy is more feminine or a girl is more like a tomboy, so they're also being bullied for that. But in certain studies, the one in Finland and Tanzania University, they found there was a significant correlation between a kid being bullied and then the onset of their gender dysphoria coming afterwards rather than before. But of course, it works both ways.
I mean, the type of bullying that olilondon received was positive. Okay, I'll say it. Like, yeah, no, people were like yelling at you, and they didn't bully you because you were trans. They bullied you because you're out of your fucking mind. Like, no one is out there being like, wow, olilondon's trans. I mean, I'm sure there were some transphobic people that actually were bullying him. But those people are now his allies, right? Most people, like myself, were looking at that and going, you're fucking out of your mind. Like, you're not Jimin. You're not him. You are not him. Okay?
He's a
You can't be
Jimin
fucking
guy.
Korean like that. It doesn't work that way, you dumbass.
Heteronormality. I think so it seems to be saying the opposite, actually, what you claimed it said. Do you see what I'm referring to? Heteronormality?
Yeah, no, I see that article.
Look who's back, by the way.
If you actually read the full study,
That's the conclusion.
you can find it on the National Institute of Health.
Oh, no, this is the study. Yeah, this is the study. It's the .gov.
Finland,
Yeah, this is it. And then this is the author's conclusion right there. I mean, that's pretty much that. This is the one you're talking about. Do you disagree?
Yes, but the study's also saying it's associated with being bullied and being the perpetrator. So it's basically saying
but the message. This is the last sentence. So let's read this together carefully.
Yeah,
It suggests that
it's the
bullying
only
during
last
adolescence serve
sentence.
as a mechanism of maintaining heteronormality. So, do we understand what that says?
No, I get what it's saying. It's basically saying that some of these kids that are being bullied will maintain their original identity because of the bullying. Correct. But the study also, if you read the full study, the study also speaks. There's a high correlation between. There's two different findings in the study. There's a finding that around 45% of the kids are bullied.
Yes,
And that
2001
causes the gender dysphoria. There's also part of the study which also says, like the conclusion is finding that some of these kids are bullied because of their gender dysphoria, and it makes it worse.
Headline
If
conclusion.
two outcomes are possible, then it doesn't seem that interesting. I wonder why you bring it up.
Well, no,
It's fucking
study
beating
also
dog.
talks about
This
the
is it,
correlation.
man. I mean, this is the author. They wrote the conclusion right here. This is their.
That's a small summary on you.
That's the author.
Read.
That's the author. That's their conclusion.
Correct.
Right.
But if you read in the
Who better
National
to draw a
Institute of
conclusion than the author of the study?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
No, olilondon, duh.
Okay,
But the author said
Klein is
something.
being stupid right now.
According to this, bullying prevents more kids from transitioning. Do you believe that we need more bullying?
No, I'm an advocate against bullying. I think whoever gets bullied, it's so wrong. I've been bullied myself, and I'm an
But
advocate.
if bullying results in less
Nobody-
transitioning, then that, according to what you're saying, is the best outcome for these kids.
No, I don't agree at all. No kid, even if a kid is feminine or a girl is a tomboy, they should not get bullied. No one should get bullied. They should be provided with support. But if somebody wants to transition,
Notice how Ollie's not talking about transitioning. He's saying, oh, you're just tomboys.
all these
You're
kids are going
always
through so many issues during that time. They are not in the right frame of mind
What?
to make an informed consent
If
decision.
a child is suicidal, do you believe?
I personally think it's pretty funny that he got that fucking nose job and it's so busted that one of his nostrils literally doesn't move in the same way that the other one does. And he's over here talking about
Nice,
how, like,
the add-on.
no one should get any kind of gender affirmation care. Like, bro, you fix your own shit, okay? What the fuck is this?
Told them your kids are going to commit suicide if you don't transition them. But what they said afterwards is they actually felt worse 6 months down the line after transition because they've got hormones in their body, they've got
Maybe
puberty blockers,
he appears
and
as
they even
true.
have
I
That the
guess
vast
like,
majority of people that transition don't regret it. I think it's like 95%. 99%. Are you aware of that stat?
you don't hear the cases of the detransitions.
Are you aware, Ollie, that 99%?
No, that's not true. We only hear the detransitioners in
I
comparison
don't
to
support that statistic. I think it's wrong because these
From what authority do you disprove that statistic?
well, look, these clinics make these studies. They don't even do follow-up studies. There's an example of a
Do you not
clinic
trust
called
studies because you just told me to read one?
Look, what I'm saying is the gender clinics make billions of dollars every year. Their studies are skewed and biased.
In a
They
review
don't
of
do follow-up.
27 studies involving almost 8,000 teens and adults who had transgender surgeries, mostly in Europe, US, and Canada, 1% on average expressed regret. For some, regret was temporary, but a small number went on to detransition. But that's 1%. That seems like a very small amount to be singularly focused on. And this is 27 studies, so this is a massive kind of conclusion, right? A scientific conclusion, a consensus, if you would.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, the clinic, for instance, Tavistock Clinic, which was the main clinic in the UK, they were actually exposed. They were doing studies as well. They weren't
Is that what
bothering to
we're
check
talking
with the
about
detransitioners. They didn't bother to check with the detransitioners. They didn't check how the hormones
Oh,
were
I know what
affecting
you're
over the year.
talking about. That English one for
Yeah.
So that one, if I recall, I looked into that. I believe it was people say it was shut down. It was actually, wasn't it?
It's being shut down,
right,
but still open.
They're actually making a bigger one so they can serve more needs.
No,
right,
no,
actually. So it's not really
studies in
being
that
shut down,
one.
That
actually.
one
Say it again,
is,
what is it?
it's called Tavistock.
Tavistock. Yeah.
Yes.
So that one's actually being shut down this year.
Case
It's
study or
basically the
something.
National Health Service, which is basically looks after all the hospitals in the UK.
Very
For the government.
smart,
They actually said that there were a lot of
people.
ethical violations and stuff, and they also changed their policy.
It's funny to think that like Turf Island has any positive say on this matter, or like shutting down hospitals implies anything but like conservative austerity measures in place for the UK. Okay, one, they're horrifically transphobic over there. Sorry, it's just the truth. And two, they're fucking shutting down hospital care nonstop because of fucking Tory austerity.
27 studies. Then why did you tell me to read this one, Ollie? You use studies when it's convenient for you, but you don't when it goes against your thesis. I don't understand your consistency with studies. Do we like them or no?
What I'm trying to say, Ethan, is the gender clinics are very, very powerful.
Do we like studies or not? All studies or no
I like
studies?
studies.
Oh, we do.
No, I like studies.
You
but
like
you have
studies.
but you have to always look at bias. The clinic in Finland was a transgender clinic that made the study, so they had different findings to many of the clinics in America that are saying there's a low detransition rate. There are thousands of detransitioners out there. They're just not sharing their stories because of fear of being attacked, and they get abused every single day from trans activists. So there's thousands of kids out there. There's 50,000 detransitioners on their Reddit subreddit forum speaking about detransition, but they're scared to come out and talk about it because they're going to get attacked. So there's a lot of people hiding.
You seem to be in denial, Ollie, that the vast majority of these people, let's say there's a bias. Let's say instead of 1%, it's 10% regret it. And that's a huge deviation. So I'm giving you a lot of doubt here. If 10% only regret it, do you think that on whole of the 90% who don't regret it and who have what they consider life-changing healthcare, why would you seek to deny them life-changing healthcare? When they say this saved my life.
Well, Ethan, children can't get tattoos, children can't buy cigarettes or buy alcohol. So how on earth can they consent to doing something they don't even understand about? We have to look at many of these kids, they don't understand, they don't think about the future. Like, if a kid changes their body, they have gender reassessment surgery or take hormones, they might not be able to have a baby when they're old. They don't think about those things because they're kids. So the issue is just, we shouldn't be doing this to kids. It should happen, as an adult, they can make informed consent. But even with some of the parents agreeing to it...
Do you know how many kids between the age of
the counter to this
17 went through irreversible surgery in the United States?
That's
I know
the real counter is...
that would be several thousand.
So the number of patients, of children between 6 and 17 who went through irreversible surgery in the United States, what was the years on that one?
It's 3 years, 2019 through 2021.
So this is the most comprehensive data we have, and this comes straight from the government stats. It was 250 per year. Does that seem significant to you?
That's completely incorrect because there are it's in the thousands now. There's a clinic in Oregon that's done at least
1,000? Is that significant? 1,000? I mean, we have 50 million children in the United States. Do you think 1,000 is statistically significant?
There's thousands, and this study probably only takes into account.
This is one counter. The other counter is not only is it statistically insignificant and you're making a fucking mountain out of a molehill, the other counter always is, okay, what if you have a child, okay, who is in a situation where puberty blockers are medically necessary? And then he'll say, no, that's not the case. That's like trans people, blah, blah, blah. And you go, okay, again, contraceptives and certain kinds of certain kinds of hormone blockers are absolutely medically necessary for young girls, for example, that have issues related to their fucking genitals and shit. You know what I mean? It's still medically necessary. Do you think that they should stop? Birth control in many instances could literally be life-saving. It's not even just about like, kids are having sex and we need to make sure that you're curbing back on teenage pregnancy. It is an absolute medical necessity for a lot of people, like girls especially. Do you think that is appropriate, or do you want to stop that? And if he says, yes, that is appropriate, that should happen, then you go, okay, well then why the fuck do you have a say on other medically necessary circumstances? Do you think you should set the boundaries on what is considered medically necessary and what's not medically necessary? Or should we leave that standard up to the medical professionals, the healthcare professionals, that have the welfare of the entire public in mind and aren't some fucking psychotic people who thought they were Korean 3 months ago?
Yes, this was a good discussion. Guess is willing to come on the show, I guess. I'm glad to announce it.